After week 2 of the 2022 college football season went completely off the rails, week 3 was considerably more sedated. Every AP top 10 team won by double digits, though number 10 Arkansas sure did take a circuitous route to get there against Missouri State. And the only unranked over ranked win was a rather predictable one, with Washington knocking off number 11 Michigan State by a score of 39-28. Will week 4 follow last Saturday's script, or are we going to cannonball back into some chaos? With a trio of ranked versus ranked games on tap to go along with 3 instances of a ranked team playing on the road against a 3-0 foe, the recipe for chaos is certainly there. Hello, friends, and welcome to the Week 4 edition of TXN Sports World College Football Thursday. I am your host, Anthony Florio, joined as always by good old MF Michael Fletcher. Maybe awaiting the presence of Michael Bullock, I'm not sure. If he comes in, we'll catch him up on what he missed. If not, then we'll hopefully have him back with us Saturday night for NFL Saturday. But week 4 of the 2022 college football season here and now. 21 games on tap. And let's not waste any time. Let's dive into the first of six games that will be kicking off at high noon on Saturday. So a lot to be flipping back and forth between come Sunday at high noon. And we started off with the number 1 team in all the land, your reigning, defending, undisputed college football playoff national champion, Maiden Georgia Bulldogs, back at home at Sanford Stadium in Athens, hosting the Golden Flashes of Kent State over on ESPN+. Taylor Zarzar, Matt Stinchcomb, and Tara Talmadge on the call. Georgia opening up as a 45-point favorite. Yeah, okay. Kent State has had a lot of experience against AP top 10 opponents over the past decade, but all of it has been awful. In reverse chronological order, listen to all these beatdowns. 33-3 loss to number 7 Oklahoma in week 2. 41-10 loss to number 6 Texas A&M last year. A 30-7 loss to number 5 Iowa last year. 55-16 loss to then number 8 Auburn 2019. Same year, 48-0 loss to then number 8 Wisconsin. 63-10 loss to number 10 Penn State in 18. 56-3 loss to then number 5 Clemson in 2017. 48-0 loss to then number 1 Alabama in 2016. And a 45-13 loss to number 8 LSU 2013. Given the state of Georgia's incredible defense, yet another 48-0 shutout is a very real possibility. But I don't have it quite that bad, but it is bad though. I got Georgia all day, easy win, 52-3. Georgia easy win against Kent State. So not much more to say. Good old MF Michael Fletcher, come on in. The number 1, your number 1 team in all the land, your reigning defending champion, Maiden Georgia Bulldogs. And they've got themselves one hell of a cupcake on Saturday when Kent State travels to those infamous hedges as a 45-point underdog.
Yeah, and like you said, it's basically Georgia gets a breather. Georgia gets an easy one this week. This is them just an opportunity to flex their muscle. You could call it a delicious squash, like we always would say on our wrestling show. This is exactly what it's going to be. So, yeah, there's really nothing more to add, nothing more to say. And, Anthony, I give it right to you.
All right, MF, keep your mic on. You'll be leading off our next matchup. And it's only fitting because it's your team, the number 4 Michigan Wolverines, yet again in the big house at Michigan Stadium, the big house in Ann Arbor, Michigan. And they're going to be welcoming the Maryland Terrapins to the big house on Saturday as part of Big Noon Saturday on Fox with Gus Johnson, Joel Klatt, and the All-American girl Jenny Taft. Michigan opening up as a 17-point favorite. MF, perhaps maybe your toughest test coming up because Maryland coming in also 3-0, but then again, it's in the big house. So
No, but the thing is just that you also got to understand that it is Maryland. So, it is a Big Ten matchup. So, Maryland's going to want to be up. and they're going to be focused and they're going to be ready and they're going to be focused on the math because it is the Michigan Wolverines. So there's no doubt about it. It's not going to be an easy matchup for Michigan. But look, it looks like we figured it out. We got a quarterback with J.J. McCartney. We got a running game, especially last week. 6 touchdowns by the running back. I mean, we got our running back of the future. We got our quarterback of the future. It looks like Michigan finally has figured out the offense side. The defense is still top 10 or in the top half of the country. I think Michigan wins easily on this one. So I got nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
Yeah. The state of Maryland loves Ravens head coach John Harbaugh, but the University of Maryland sure does hate running into his brother Jim. Since taking the Wolverines job in 2015, Jim Harbaugh has gone 6-0 against the Terrapins by a cumulative score of 291 to 59. All 6 games were decided by at least 21 points. Given that baseline, Maryland might have a better showing than usual. Quarterback Talia Tagovailoa has gotten out to a solid start to the year, as has the running back tandem of Roman Hemby and Antoine Littleton, each averaging at least 9 yards a carry. But Michigan is leading the nation in scoring while barely even needing J.J. McCarthy to do anything at quarterback. He has completed 88.2% of his minimal pass attempts, and he should make a spirited push toward the top 3 of the Heisman conversation in this game against a secondary that has allowed 661 passing yards and 6 touchdowns over the last 2 games against Charlotte and SMU. Another easy win for Michigan. I'll say 42-17. Michigan knocks off Maryland, continues their winning ways. So with that, we move on to one of our first marquee games of the week. This is the game of the noon window right here. The number 5 Clemson Tigers on the road against the number 21 Wake Forest Demon Deacons at Truist Field in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. And this game will be over on ABC. Sean McDonough, Todd Blackledge, Molly McGrath, and Clemson opening up as a 7-point favorite. It's a 7-point spread for Clemson in one of our marquee games of the week. Clemson has gotten out to a couple of painfully slow starts this season. The Tigers won their opener against Georgia Tech 41-10, but that was a 14-10 game with 21 minutes remaining. Similar story last week against Louisiana Tech, as Clemson led just 13-6 at the half before eventually cruising to a 48-20 victory. Pull that stunt again this week on the road against a much better offense, and they could be facing quite the deficit by the time they finally wake up. However, in last year's meeting, Dabo Swinney improved to 13-0 in his career against Wake Forest in what was his team's best offensive showing of the season, racking up 543 total yards on its way to a 48-27 win. And that Demon Deacons defense doesn't appear to be any better than it was last year. Wake is going to give Clemson one hell of a try. They really will. I can see this game close going into the fourth, but I think Clemson will pull away and score a late touchdown to seal it. So I got Clemson winning this game. My final score, high scoring game. I say Clemson wins 41-30. Clemson should outlast Wake Forest in Winston-Salem. So there isn't much more to say. MF, number 5 Clemson, number 21 Wake Forest. One of the first of our marquee matchups this week, and definitely the game of the high noon window here.
Oh yeah, those most definitely the game of the high noon window, but I do believe that Clemson will win. Like you said, Anthony, as much as we've been given a lot of praise and a lot of respect to this team and everything else, I just don't see. I don't see it. At the end of the day, I just feel like this is just too much of a battle, too much of a scenario, and I just don't believe that they're gonna have enough to get through you know, to the end here. So for me, I gotta go with Clemson to win. It's gonna be a good battle. It's gonna be a good game, but I just believe Clemson's just the better team. So give me Clemson to win it. I got nothing more to say, Anthony. Back to you.
All right, MF. Next game that you'll be starting off on will feature the now number 14 Penn State Nittany Lions back at home at Beaver Stadium in Happy Valley, and they're going to be hosting the Chippewas of Central Michigan. And you can find this game over on the Big Ten Network. And on the call for that one will be Mark Followill, Matt Millen, and Matt McGloin. Penn State opening up as a 28-point favorite. MF, we saw what Penn State did. They went into Auburn. They kicked the door down and made themselves at home
Oh yeah.
in Jordan Hare. Is Penn State back?
In one way, yes. In another way, I think we gotta wait and see. I don't think we're completely convinced that they're all the way back. However, Penn State is turning it around. Penn State had a good matchup. Penn State had a good win. No doubt about that. But the question is, like you said, are they all the way back? And I kind of feel like the jury is out to lunch on that. So I do believe Penn State will get the job done. I do believe Penn State will win the game. I just don't know. They're going to have to prove to me a little bit more before I can truly say yes, they're truly back or not. But they've been looking good, so I don't expect much less than what we just saw there. So for me, I think Penn State wins. But like I said, Anthony, the jury is out to lunch before we can truly say if they're truly back or not.
Fair enough. Penn State destroyed Auburn last weekend, last Saturday, though that was probably more of a testament to Auburn's quote unquote badness than it was to Penn State's quote unquote goodness. We'll need to see more from the Nittany Lions, especially their defense, before we start taking them seriously as a threat to topple Michigan on October 15th or Ohio State on October 29th. Central Michigan, though, should be no problem. CMU's defense allowed over 500 yards and a combined 96 points in its losses to Oklahoma State, understandable, and South Alabama, less understandable. Sean Clifford has himself a fun afternoon, so I got Penn State, easy win here, 45-20, Penn State, all over Central Michigan. So with that, we move on to our next high noon matchup, and it features the now number 17 Baylor Bears. And oh boy, they got a tough one on the road, a very tough one on the road, as they got to go to Ames, Iowa to face the Iowa State Cyclones at Jack Trice Stadium in Ames, Iowa. And this game will be seen over on ESPN2 with Tiffany Green, Rocky Boyman, and Dawn Davenport. And Iowa State opening up as a 2.5-point favorite. So with that being said, if the spread and or recent history is any indication, this should be a nail biter. The past 3 Baylor-Iowa State games were decided by one possession, twice with a critical scoring play in the final 30 seconds of the fourth quarter. An early return suggests this should be quite the duel between defenses that are way better than we've come to expect from the Big 12. If it comes down to which defense is more on point, I'll take the one that has been more opportunistic. Iowa State has 8 takeaways to Baylor's 2. The one that has yet to allow an opponent to score multiple touchdowns in a game, and the one with the home field advantage. Matt Campbell's Cyclones were supposed to be a top 10 team last season, but better late than never. I'm calling for the upset. I got Iowa State winning this game. My final score, 21-17. Iowa State upsets Baylor. MF, what says you?
Well, all right. Um, I'm sorry, Anthony. What's the game again? I'm sorry, I was preoccupied with something at the moment.
No, that's fine. Number 17, Baylor on the road at Iowa State.
All right. Well, I'm gonna say it like this: Baylor definitely was one of the I guess you could say the cream of the crop last year, and up to this point, honestly, I don't think they've really lived up. It's been a little bit of a rougher ride than usual for Baylor, and especially after they had an easy win over Texas State last week, but but they're still stinging from that loss over BYU. And at the end of the day, Iowa State 3-0, but the thing is, going into this, you know, they had an easy over Southeast Missouri State, beat Ohio, then they shock Iowa. And now this is like one of their biggest tests yet. And I get it. A lot of people have Iowa as the favorite. I know they're like I think a 3-point favorite. And last year it was an absolute dogfight between these two. Baylor just barely escaping with the 2-point win. But until I'm proven otherwise, I gotta go with Baylor. I don't know why. I just feel like Baylor being more battle tested, more on a road fight, more in that type of a capacity. I kind of feel like I gotta go with Baylor. I don't know. I feel like Iowa might be due for a loss here. And I hate to say this, but I'm not totally convinced about Iowa State yet. So I'm gonna go for Baylor. Anthony, it's yours.
No, fair enough, MF. Fair enough. So with that being said, I believe we have one more high noon game here. Yes, we do. Yep, we covered them. All right. All right, MF. You'll be leading off on our final high noon, which features the now number 24 Pittsburgh Panthers, once again at home at Acrisure Stadium, formerly Heinz Field in Pittsburgh. And they're going to be hosting the Rhody Rams, the University of Rhode Island Rams. This game will be over on the ACC network. Wes Durham, Roddy Jones, and Taylor Davis on the call. I do not have a spread for this game. I think we can imagine why. You have to imagine Pittsburgh's got to be a more than sizable favorite here. So MF, Pittsburgh at home, squaring off against URI. Oh boy, URI is going to be in for a rough day.
Yeah, they normally would be. They're 2-1 in the C8. They're 2-1. They just came off a loss last week as they lost to Delaware 42-21. Look, I'm gonna say it. Rhody never gets these kind of marquee matchups. It's normally, you see them and there's a couple of games here and there, but normally they're relatively quiet. Their basketball team is more relevant in the NCAA than their football team. But to go up against an ACC team like Pittsburgh, I mean, this is a good matchup to have. Pittsburgh, of course, coming off a nice win over Western Michigan, also coming off of a heartbreaking loss over Tennessee. I feel like Pittsburgh's going to handle their business. They should win this game pretty handily. Really nothing more to say. So, Anthony, it's yours.
1 week removed from allowing 5 consecutive touchdown drives of 75 or more yards in a 42-21 loss to Delaware, Rhode Island faces an even stiffer test against a ranked FBS opponent. Pittsburgh quarterback Keaton Slovis, undisclosed upper body injury, did not play in last week's 34-13 win at Western Michigan, though he was cleared to do so. Head coach Pat Narduzzi opted to play it safe with the quarterback he knows he's going to need when the Panthers begin ACC play next week, and it wouldn't be a surprise if Slovis also sits this one out. If that's the case, maybe Rhode Island, which does have a respectable offense led by former Maryland quarterback Kasem Hill, at least covers whatever the spread ends up being. But Slovis or no Slovis, it's unlikely Pitt will be sweating this one out, quite like Arkansas was against its FCS foe Missouri State last week. Easy win for Pittsburgh. I say Pittsburgh wins this one rather handily, 41-16. Pittsburgh defeats URI, so that takes care of the high noon slate. Now we move on to the 3:30 slate, and we've got 3 games in that slate. And we started off with another marquee game of the week. You could most assuredly call this the game of the 3:30 window. Well, it is the game of the 3:30 window, hands down, as it will be as part of the SEC on CBS. The now number 11 Tennessee Volunteers at home at Neyland Stadium in Knoxville, Tennessee, and they're going to be hosting the number 20 Florida Gators. SEC on CBS, you know who's working that. Brad Nessler, Gary Danielson, Jenny Dell. Tennessee opening up as a 10.5-point favorite. So here we go. Another one of our big games of the week. In theory, this will be a great game. Both teams are ranked in the AP Top 20, while Tennessee is both ranked higher, and the home team, Florida, has completely owned this SEC East rivalry as of late, winning 5 straight and 16 of the last 17 meetings dating back to 2005. While Tennessee quarterback Hendon Hooker has been just about flawless since the start of last season, 36 passing touchdowns, 7 rushing touchdowns, and only 3 interceptions. Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson has been flawful. Can we make that a word after the past 2 weeks in which he has gone 24 out of 53, 45.3% for 255 yards, no touchdowns, and 4 interceptions to go along with 13 carries for 28 yards and no scores? Somehow, with help from a pick six, some short fields, and a late missed field goal, the Gators still managed to eke out a home win over South Florida. But if Richardson plays anything like that against Tennessee, the Vols may well win by 4 touchdowns and rapidly become the trendy pick to crash the college football playoff party. Considering opposing quarterbacks have rushed a combined 18 times for negative 22 yards against this Volunteers defense, I love their chances of keeping Richardson bottled up. I got Tennessee winning this game. Tennessee wins this game. My final score, 38-17. Tennessee takes care of Florida. So, MF, watch out for Tennessee.
Rocky Top, man. Rocky Top, man. It's like back in the day with it was I don't remember the coach, but he was talking about a duck pulling the truck, and yeah, that was when Josh Dobbs was actually the quarterback for Tennessee. That was the last time that they actually had a really good run going. That was Philip Fulmer, as a matter of fact, if I remember correctly, who was the head coach of the team. Yeah, I like Tennessee as well. I like what they're doing. I like the body of work. Tennessee and Florida, that's one of those underrated SEC rivalries we don't talk about much. But when these two teams get on it, it's fireworks. There's always a crazy game down the wire, 7 points or less. I gotta say, I'm gonna go with the Tennessee to win as well. So nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours.
All right, MF. Well, I was going to say keep your mic on because coming up, you'll be leading off the next matchup, our next 3:30 window matchup, and it will feature the number 22 Texas Longhorns on the road, and they got a trap game of their own. They got to go up against the Red Raiders of Texas Tech at Jones AT&T Field in Lubbock, Texas. Just want to make sure I have the correct name on that. Yes, Jones AT&T Stadium in Lubbock, Texas. And this game will be over on ESPN. Dave Fleming, Rod Gilmore, Tiffany Blackman on the call. Texas opening up as a 7-point favorite. MF, I think we got a team on upset alert here. Texas, they got to go on the road against Texas Tech. Not going to be easy.
Not going to be easy, but I'm not buying it, man. Especially after Texas Tech laid a neg against North Carolina State. I'm sorry. I don't know where you're coming from saying about upset or that. I ain't finding it anywhere. I'm sorry. I'm not buying it. Not one bit. I got Texas winning. Texas almost knocked out Alabama. Remember that, Florio? I am not going to make that same mistake again. Texas is going to roll this time around over Texas Tech. I'm not buying that little upset alert thing. Not one bit. Wrong on that. Texas wins and wins comfortably. It's your go, Florio.
Once again, I say fair enough. Don't let the 41-20 final score fool you. Texas got all it could handle last Saturday at home against the University of Texas San Antonio, leading by just 4 points late in the third quarter before Jade Barron ran back a backbreaking pick six to jumpstart the 21-point win. In its first road game of the season, Texas could be, keyword could be, in some trouble. However, Texas Tech didn't exactly look good in its 27-14 loss to NC State and has been careless with the ball to the tune of 7 interceptions through its first 3 games. Could be another game in which a Longhorns pick six opens the floodgates. Worth noting, Texas has averaged 55.8 points during its 4-game winning streak in this Big 12 rivalry. Throw in how good Bijan Robinson looked en route to 3 touchdowns and more than 200 total yards from scrimmage last week, and Vegas's over-under of 60 sure feels like a misprint here. I could see Texas Tech giving them some fits early, but like I said, at the end, Texas will run away with it. Texas should win this one rather handily. I got Texas winning 45-27 over Texas Tech, so nothing more to say on that one. Our final 3:30 matchup, and it's the now number 25 Miami, Florida Hurricanes, the U, back at home at Hard Rock Stadium in Miami, hosting the Blue Raiders of Middle Tennessee. This game will be over on the ACC network with Chris Cotter, Mark Herzlich, and Lauricia Harris. Miami opening up as a 25.5-point favorite. So, yeah, you know it's going to be the U. Miami moved the ball well in its 17-9 loss to Texas A&M last week. It just couldn't get the ball across the goal line against an excellent SEC defense. That shouldn't be a problem this week against the Middle Tennessee team that lost 44-7 at James Madison in its lone game thus far against a competent opponent. Curiously enough, Middle Tennessee holds a 2-0 edge in this all-time series. But after their first meeting since 1932, that unblemished record will be no more. I got the U bouncing back in a big way. The U all over Middle Tennessee, 38-10. Miami takes care of Middle Tennessee, so there isn't much more to say here. MF, without a doubt, you can most definitely consider this a get-right game for the U after that tough loss to Texas A&M.
Absolutely. And the thing was, it wasn't really a bad performance. It's just they just made a couple of mistakes. If they did make the mistakes, maybe we'd be talking about Miami winning that game. But they made a couple of mistakes here and there, especially towards the end, and that cost them the game more than anything else. So if it wasn't for that, we'd be talking about a big victory for the U. But this is a get right back. This is a get right game. I think it will be a get right game. They'll win this one pretty handily. Nothing more to say. And yeah, it's yours.
All right, MF. We move on to the first of 2 4 o'clock games before we get into our primetime matchups. And we started off with the now number 15 Oregon Ducks on the road against the Washington State Cougars. And that game will be at Martin Stadium in Pullman, Washington. And this game will be over on Fox, and on that call will be Tim Brando and Spencer Tillman. And Oregon opening up as a 6.5-point favorite. All right, MF. I know I was a little hasty about calling Texas Tech a possible upset, but if I'm going to be real honest with you, I think Oregon should be on upset alert in this one.
You know what? This is the one that I would probably say you're more likely for me to agree on. First time around, I thought you were out of your mind. Okay, I thought you were out of your mind with the Texas one. This one, I tend to agree with you a little bit. In a way that yes, because of the fact that we're still trying to figure out where Oregon is. We're still trying to figure out what team they are. Are they really a team that has truly turned it around? And in a way, yes, they did because they took BYU and they took them to the woodshed and beat them up. Like in Eugene, that was an emphatic beatdown. That was an emphatic devastation performance, but that was at home. The last time they played where they were technically the road team, even though it was a neutral site, but they were technically the road team, they got smashed by Georgia. We all remember that. So, what are we going to get with Washington State? You never know. Washington State is undefeated. However, the three teams that they did beat was Ohio, Idaho. They shocked Wisconsin on the road, and then they won easily over Colorado State. This is kind of a major test for them at home. Can they answer the bell? We'll wait and see. But would I be shocked if Washington State wins? No. But this is an upset alert game. But I do believe Oregon has learned their lesson. And I think they did turn it around, especially after that first game. So I'm going to be openly and honestly with you. I think Oregon is going to win it, but it's not going to be easy. So it's yours, Florio.
All right, MF. This game has nobody believes in us written all over it for Washington State. Oregon got absolutely boat raced by Georgia in week 1. But oh well, no one cares, and the Ducks are back up to number 15 in the AP poll after a home win over BYU. Washington wins a home game against a terrible Michigan State secondary, and it catapults into the rankings at number 18. But for an impressive road win over a ranked Wisconsin team and a subsequent 31-point win over Colorado State, undefeated Washington State is still just 5th among others receiving votes. Time for the Cougar faithful to drink a few hundred gallons of Fireball and cheer their boys to what might be the biggest upset of Week 4. I don't care. I'm pulling the trigger again. I'm calling for another upset here. Give me Washington State to upset Oregon 27-24. But if Oregon wins, would I be surprised? Absolutely not. But I just got this feeling, man. So I'm going with Washington State 27-24 in that one. All right, the other 4 o'clock game features the number 16 Ole Miss Rebels back at home at Vaught-Hemingway Stadium in Oxford, Mississippi, hosting the Golden Hurricane of Tulsa. And this will be over on the SEC Network. Dave Neal, Deuce McAllister, and Marilyn Payne on the call. Ole Miss opening up as a 21.5-point favorite. It's Ole Miss. Ole Miss entered this season having allowed at least 14 points in 25 consecutive games, but it has allowed just 13 total points during this 3-0 start. Take it with a grain of salt, since the games came against Troy, Central Arkansas, and Georgia Tech. But this has been an incredible start for a team that is also averaging 43 points scored. This will be a solid test of the legitimacy of that Ole Miss defense, though, as Tulsa is out of nowhere leading the nation with 413 passing yards a game. Davis Brin had 18 touchdowns and 16 interceptions during the 2021 regular season, but he has been surgical in the early going, feeding 6th-year wide receiver Keelan Stokes an all-you-can-eat buffet of passes. But while Tulsa might score a few touchdowns, Ole Miss might not need to punt once again against a less than stellar Golden Hurricane defense. I got Ole Miss winning this game comfortably. Ole Miss defeats Tulsa 45-17. Nothing more to say. MF, your thoughts on number 16 Ole Miss at home against Tulsa?
Yeah, this is going to be an easy one. I got Ole Miss winning as well. Um, there's really nothing more to say here. So, Anthony, it's yours.
All right, MF, and now it's prime time. We're into the prime time games now. We have 2 7 o'clock kickoffs, and we're going to start it off with who I got to consider the early darling of this season, or one of the early darlings. I mean, you talk about Tennessee. Well, here's another SEC darling, and this one has especially come out of nowhere. The now number 8 Kentucky Wildcats, back at home at Kroger Field in Lexington, Kentucky, hosting the Huskies of Northern Illinois, and this game will be over on ESPN2, and on that call it will be Anish Shroff, Brock Osweiler, and Alex Chappelle, and Kentucky. Kentucky opening up as a 26.5 point favorite. MF, I think we found our darling of college football this year, Kentucky, number 8.
Yeah, definitely a big surprise. They've been playing really well lately. Um, when you think about it, it's just one of those situations where you're just like, you know what? Are they for real? Are they not for real? They're for real, folks. And if we don't watch, and if you don't watch yourselves, this could be bigger things than anything else. So yeah, I think Kentucky is gonna get the job done. I think they're gonna keep the momentum going. So there's really nothing more to say. Anthony, it's yours. I got Kentucky winning it yet again. You can go, Florio. I got
Uh,
Kentucky winning.
I forgot to unmute my mic. I thought I had it unmuted. Oh well. All right, let me start again. Kentucky's inability to run the ball is becoming a very real concern. It's one thing to struggle against Florida, but averaging less than 3 yards a carry in last week's shutout of Youngstown State was a troubling takeaway from an otherwise convincing victory. Fortunately for the ranked team in this matchup, the Northern Illinois secondary is abysmal, having allowed 11 passing touchdowns through its first 3 games against Eastern Illinois, Tulsa, and Vanderbilt. Wildcats quarterback Will Levis should have a field day in this one, even if Coach Mark Stoops treats this game as an opportunity to get the run game going. I got Kentucky winning this one as well, convincingly 35-13, Kentucky over Northern Illinois. And we have a final from Thursday Night Football. The Cleveland Browns defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers 29-17. The Browns improved to 2-1. The Steelers dropped to 1-2. We'll have a recap of this game on Saturday night as part of TXN Sports World NFL Saturday. So we'll have more on that on then. But for right now, let's get back into to this. Kentucky wins 35-13. Now let's get to the other 7 o'clock game. This one's a far bigger matchup. This right here is the third of our big 3 marquee games of the week because, they're ranked versus ranked, obviously. We have the number 10 Arkansas Razorbacks on the road against the number 23 Texas A&M Aggies, Kyle Field, College Station, Texas, on ESPN. Joe Tessitore, Greg McElroy, and Katie George. And Texas A&M opening up as only a 2-point favorite, smallest spread of the week. So here we go. So Arkansas is the 2022 version of 2021 Michigan State. Yeah. The rushing attack is dominant. The quarterback is certainly good enough to capitalize when the opposing defense overcommits to slowing down the run and the defense gets sacks in bunches. But the defense also allows way too many passing yards. In fact, the Razorbacks are dead last in the nation at 352.7 passing yards allowed a game. Can Texas A&M take advantage of that secondary, though? Haynes King threw for just 97 yards in the Week 2 upset loss to Appalachian State. Jimbo Fisher let Max Johnson start the subsequent game against Miami, and he merely went 10 for 20 for 140 yards, pretty much all of it to either Aeneas Smith or Devin Achaney. But if the Aggies relentlessly feed those two playmakers, they reasonably could do to this porous secondary what MF's boys Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle did to the Baltimore Ravens last Sunday when they finished with a combined 22 catches for 361 yards and 4 touchdowns. Even if Smith and Achaney don't quite get that carried away, they should do enough for a stingy A&M defense, 2 touchdowns allowed thus far this season, to get the job done. And with this game being in A&M, I got to call for another upset. I got to say A&M upsets Arkansas. 24-20, I got A&M upsetting Arkansas, but if Arkansas were to steal one here, I would certainly not be surprised. I wouldn't. But I just got this feeling about A&M, especially after the Miami win last week. So 24-20, A&M wins, so MF, Arkansas and A&M.
I could see the upset. Yeah, I could give you that. Do I think it's gonna happen? Maybe, but I'll see you there with that, Florio. So yeah, I'll go with the A&M with the upset too. So yeah, I think you made a valid point there. So I got really nothing more to add. So yeah, it's yours.
All right, MF. Now we have 3 7:30 kickoffs to get into here, and we started off with the number 2 team in the land, the number 2 Alabama Crimson Tide, at home against the Commodores of Vanderbilt, Bryant-Denny Stadium, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And this game will be over on the SEC Network with Tom Hart, Jordan Rogers, and Cole Kubelik. Alabama opening up as a 40.5-point favorite. MF, I think we all know the 2 words we always love to use with Alabama, and it's going to be ever more true here. Next victim.
Yeah, a couple of weeks ago, they got humbled, they got embarrassed when they just barely escaped with the victory over Texas. Um, if you're Alabama, you got a tough schedule coming up because then you got Arkansas, you got A&M, you got Tennessee. So you got 3 very good matchups coming up. So I don't think they're gonna look too far behind. They'll easily beat Vanderbilt, but then you got a somewhat of a murderer's row behind that. So then we're gonna see what you're made of. In the next 3 weeks, we're gonna find out where Alabama really stands in this SEC, if they are a true national power or not, because they got 3 good matchups coming up. You got Arkansas on the road in Arkansas, A&M, and you know they want revenge because that's the team that beat them last year. And then you got to go to Neyland Stadium in Knoxville to play Tennessee, one of the biggest surprises in the SEC right now. Good luck, Alabama. You're going to need it. Florio, it's yours.
Yeah, we'll definitely see what they're made of come then. But for right now, this will most certainly be a next victim here, right here. Even though these teams both play in the SEC, this will be, believe it or not, MF, this will be just the 3rd meeting between Alabama and Vanderbilt in the last 15 years. And, I think the Commodores are okay with that because the Crimson Tide won 34-0 in 2011 and 59-0 in 2017. Vanderbilt should get into the scoring column this time around as the offense has been, at least by Vandy standards, quite respectable thus far, averaging 6.7 yards a play and 42 points a game. As was the case 5 years ago, though, Alabama will score at will. This Vanderbilt defense allowed 495 total yards to Elon in week 1 and 45 points against Wake Forest the week after that. Bama took out some frustration in last week's 63-7 win over Louisiana Monroe, but it still has something to prove in the aftermath of the close call against Texas. Bama wins easy. Next victim, 52-6. Bama all over Vandy. Not much more to say here. Now we move on to another marquee game of the week. I'm putting this in at number 4 as as the biggest ranked versus unranked matchup of the week. And this is an MF special. This is a Big Ten battle here. The number 3 Ohio State Buckeyes back at home at Ohio Stadium in the Horseshoe in Columbus, and they're going to be hosting the Wisconsin Badgers. And it's the ABC Saturday night game of the week. And you know what that means. Chris Fowler, Kirk Herbstreit, Holly Rowe, Ohio State opening up as a 19-point favorite. It's the old unstoppable force versus immovable object debate. Ohio State is averaging 8.44 yards a play and a nation best 565.3 total yards a game, while Wisconsin has allowed 24 total points and has not yet allowed an opponent to gain more than 253 total yards. But with both Jackson Smith and Jigba and Julian Fleming back in action last week for Ohio State, joining an already unstoppable receiving corps led by Marvin Harrison Jr. and Emeka Egbuka, gotta go with the unstoppable force in this one. Should be similar to 2019 when Wisconsin held opponents not named Ohio State to 13.75 points a game, but gave up 38 in the regular season and 34 in the Big Ten championship against the Buckeyes. Except I've got Ohio State scoring even more than that this time around. Close early, but then Ohio State dominates. So I got Ohio State winning this one 45-14. Ohio State all over Wisconsin. So not much more to say here. MF, here you go. This is your kind of football right here, especially in your conference, the Big Ten. Be a man battle. Number 3 Ohio State at home against Wisconsin.
Oh man, this is going to be a good one too. This is normally one of the highlights of the season. This is one of the big dog the fights that we normally would like to see. But I just feel like when Ohio State is just the cream of the crop. So I got Ohio State winning. So Florio, we got a few more games left. Not that we got about 5 games left.
A little more than that, actually. 7, actually. So
What am I missing?
we've got some late night games actually.
Well, no, I got the late night, but you said that there's 7 left. Where? Because I know there's the
Because we have a 7:30 game right here. We have one more 7:30 game coming up. Then we have an 8 o'clock, and then a 9:30,
and then there's 3 late. Okay, no, the one I was missing was the NC State. Yeah,
Yep, and that's the game we're going to get
that's
into
the
right
game we're
now.
covering.
Actually,
Okay.
The third of our 7:30 kickoffs, final 7:30 kickoff, and this will feature the number 12 North Carolina State Wolfpack back at home at Carter Finley Stadium in Raleigh, North Carolina, and they're going to be hosting the UConn Huskies. And this game will be seen over on CSS, but it's also one of those ESPN3, wherever you can find it. On the call for that will be Evan Lepler, James Bates, and Lauren Jabara. And NC State opening up as a 38.5-point favorite. NC State, we talked about it earlier. They manhandled Texas Tech.
Yep.
And now they've got one last tune-up. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe next week is the big one against Clemson. Am I right?
I believe you are right. Let's see. Yes, it is Clemson next week. Yeah, no, I think UConn. Look, they bless their hearts. They tried against Michigan, and Michigan was just not. They didn't care. They absolutely just stomped them. And unfortunately, I feel like that's exactly what's going to happen again. So I think NC State is going to put a whooping on UConn. It's not even going to be close. So there's really nothing more to add. Anthony, it's yours.
Fresh off a 59-0 loss to Michigan, the only question here is whether UConn can hang around long enough to keep NC State's first team offense on the field into the third quarter. Because with a ginormous game at Clemson coming up next week, the Wolfpack are going to want to pull Devin Leary and company as soon as possible. easy win for NC State. 48-7 beatdown of UConn. So not much more to say there. All right, we have one 8 o'clock kickoff here. Yep. Let me see. Yeah. I miscounted. Yeah, we had the extra game. Now we're down to 5. Okay. So, yeah, we've covered all these matchups. Okay. So, just want to be sure we're all good here. All right. 8 o'clock kickoff on Fox, and it features the number 6 Oklahoma Sooners back at home at Gaylord Family Memorial Stadium in Norman, Oklahoma. They're going to be hosting the Wildcats of Kansas State. This game will be on Fox. Jason Benetti, Brock Heward, and Allison Williams. Oklahoma opening up as a 12.5-point favorite against Kansas State. Oklahoma's offense looks about as good as it did under Lincoln Riley and under Bob Stoops before him, averaging north of 500 total yards a game with 17 touchdowns against just 1 turnover. But the Sooners look different and better on defense, with former longtime Clemson defensive coordinator Brent Venables now running the program. Oklahoma already has 13 sacks and is leading the nation with 32 total tackles for loss. And that's bad news for a Kansas State offense that has not been able to do much of anything through the air, with former Nebraska quarterback Adrian Martinez behind center. The 2 best receiving games of Deuce Vaughn's college career have both come against Oklahoma, but the Sooners will keep him reasonably contained in this one en route to a relatively convincing win. I got Oklahoma taking care of Kansas State and doing so comfortably. 38-17, Oklahoma defeats Kansas State. So, MF, Boomer Sooner?
Yeah, Boomer Sooner. I do believe that. I think they finally figured themselves out. I think, it kind of took a little bit of some time at the beginning, but they had the UTEP thing, but then they've been dominating, and then they went up against Nebraska, and it was no problem. I mean, they dominated from the beginning to end. Uh, like I said, they got a couple of tough matchups coming up. TCU probably not gonna make them. Well, TCU's actually undefeated, so that could give them problems. But then you got the big one against Texas at the Cotton Bowl, Red River rivalry. You already know it's about to go down in a couple of weeks. I can't wait. October 8th, it's gonna be nuts. So that's gonna be the big one. And yeah, there's really nothing more to say. So I think they'll be fun. They should win next week, but then they got a tough one on the road the next time out. And then of course it's Red River rivalry. So they got 2 monster games coming up. So we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out what this Oklahoma squad is all about. So nothing more to say. Floyo, is yours.
And in 2 weeks, we'll be previewing that game. And we're going to have a lot of fun with that, because that's a game that MF and I hold very near and dear to our hearts.
Oh yeah.
Especially the last 2 years.
Oh yeah. You know what? Especially last year, Texas blew them out early. It was like, oh my God, they're gonna run right out of the Cotton Bowl. Oh no, that did not happen.
As I always say, there's no such thing as a sure thing.
Yep.
And that game proved it. So we'll see what happens in a couple weeks. But for right now, we got 4 games left, and we move on to a rare 9:30 kickoff. It's not often we get 9:30 kickoffs, but we got one here. And this is another one of those. Matter of fact, I'm gonna go as far as to call this the sleeper game of the week right here. Out of the Pac-12, as it will feature the number 7 USC Trojans on the road against the Oregon State Beavers at Reser Stadium in Corvallis, Oregon. And this game will be over on the Pac-12 network with Ted Robinson and Yogi Roth. And USC opening up as a 5.5-point favorite. So MF, number 7 USC on the road against a 3-0 Oregon State team. I mean, should SC be on upset alert? I don't know. I mean, MF, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here, man. I was listening the whole way through. I was just waiting.
Okay.
Look, USC is one of those teams that you kind of feel like maybe this could be their year. This could be the opportunity. They took Fresno State, absolutely stomped them, 45-17. Look, there's three teams that so far they ran into haven't gotten into any scary situation right now. They're playing really good football. I gotta admit. So I mean, I do believe that they'll get the job done. I think they'll beat Oregon State. It's not going to be easy, but I do believe they got enough weapons and they'll hold off Oregon State. Oregon State's going to give them a lot of fits, but I think they'll win this game. So give me USC. The Trojans win. Florio, it's yours.
MF, there are, like I said, there are three ranked against ranked showdowns in week 4, but Trojans Beavers may well be the best game on the slate. Unless you're a fan of hard-nosed defense and low-scoring affairs, MF, of course. If that's the case, you're going to hate this game, especially for guys who love offense like me, because USC's offense is quite potent, but that D has been boom or bust. The Trojans have forced 11 turnovers while committing 0, but Stanford moved the ball pretty much at will against them, racking up 33 first downs. Fresno State also eclipsed 400 total yards against USC, despite losing all Mountain West quarterback Jake Hayner to a devastating lower leg injury early in the third quarter. And Oregon State's offense is potent in its own right, scoring at least 21 points in 22 of its last 23 games. The Beavers put up 34 and 35 against Boise State and Fresno State, respectively. And it would be surprising if they don't at least reach 27 in this game. In the end, though, it's going to be too much Caleb Williams, too much Jordan Addison, and too much of a rushing attack that has been exponentially better than it was over the previous 4 seasons. Close game. I think it's going to be a lot like that Clemson Wake Forest game. I can see this game being close for 3 quarters and into the 4th, but I think USC will put it away with a late score at the end. So I'll say USC ekes one out in Corvallis. 42-31, USC gets by Oregon State. Now we have 3 late night kickoffs here. We have a 10:15 kickoff here. This game will be over on ESPN2, featuring the now number 19 BYU Cougars back at home at Lavelle Edwards Stadium in Provo, Utah, hosting the Cowboys of Wyoming. ESPN2 will have it. Brian Custer, Dustin Fox, and Lauren Sisler on the call. BYU opening up as a 21.5 point favorite. Get right game. This is a get right game, no doubt about it for BYU. BYU looked like it expected Oregon. BYU looked like it expected Oregon to be as bad in week 3 as Georgia made Oregon look in week 1. In what was supposed to be an opportunity to legitimately enter the college football playoff conversation, the Cougars could not get a stop to save their lives, falling behind 38-7 by midway through the third quarter and ultimately losing 41-20. But they're better than that, and they should bounce back in a big way against a Wyoming offense that has managed just 4 touchdowns through 3 games against FBS opponents Illinois, Tulsa, and Air Force. Get right, bounce back for BYU, easy win, 35-13, BYU all over Wyoming. So there isn't much more to say. MF, perfect get right game for BYU after they got embarrassed in Eugene last week.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This is going to be an interesting one here. Look, I'll say this. At the end of the day, you kind of start looking at this, and when you're talking about BYU and what happened, look, they took one on the chin. Uh, they took one on the chin this time around and got stomped. Now they're gonna go up against Wyoming. Wyoming, I look. This is a dangerous game too. They're 3-1 right now. Came off a big win over the Air Force. You kind of feel like maybe this is a little bit too good to be true, but I gotta go with BYU. I just feel like BYU is they're going to be hopping mad after what happened last week. So I got BYU winning this, Anthony, and it's back to you.
All right, MF, you'll be leading off our second to last game of the week, and we have two 10:30 kickoffs. And here you go, MF. This is something that I know you've always had a secret love affair with. Pac-12 after dark. Oh yeah, here we go. We don't often get Pac-12 after dark games on here, but we got one here, as it will feature the number 13 Utah Utes on the road against the Arizona State Sun Devils at the legendary Sun Devil Stadium in Tempe, Arizona, on ESPN. Dave Patch, Dusty Dvoracek, and Tom Luganville. Utah opening up as a 15.5 point favorite. So it's technically now Sun Devil Football Stadium, but it's still Sun Devil Stadium in Tempe, Arizona. That's where it'll be. So Utah opening up as a 15.5 point favorite against Arizona State, and now Arizona State now begins life after they fired the legendary Herm Edwards just recently.
Yeah, they actually fired him about a week ago, especially after they lost. It was about a week ago when they lost to Central. I think it was Central Michigan. No, Eastern Michigan. They lost 21, 30 to 21, and that was when Herm Edwards found out that he was let go. He was relieved of his duties. Now you got the reigning and defending Pac-12 champions, Utah coming through. Yeah, not a good time if you're a Sun Devil fan. Not a good time for this to happen. And I think Utah is going to make themselves right at home at Tempe with the victory here. So I got Utah winning. Anthony, it's yours.
All right. Like I said, the Herm Edwards era at Arizona State is over, and as was the case for Nebraska last week against Oklahoma, that first game under the interim head coach is probably going to be a nightmare. The Sun Devils' defense was helpless against both Oklahoma State and Eastern Michigan, and Utah's offense is probably better than both of those, certainly better than EMU's. Never say never when hashtag Pac-12 After Dark is in play, but Utah should cruise to an easy win in Tempe. Utah wins 41-17 over Arizona State. So one game left, and it's another Pac-12 matchup. As just give me a moment here. Just give me 1 second here. Okay. Okay. Just want to make sure I have the. Okay, here we go. All right, got it now. All right, just wanted to make sure I had the correct name here of the stadium. All right. Final game of the night. The new number 18 Washington Huskies back at home at Husky Stadium, and they will be in Seattle, Washington, and they're going to be hosting the Stanford Cardinal. And this game will be over on FS1. Alex Faust and Petros Papadakis will be on the call. Washington opening up as a 13.5 point favorite, and say this much for Stanford: the run game is back. The Cardinal had one of the most anemic rushing attacks in the nation from 2018 to 2021, but they ran it well against both Colgate and USC, with E.J. Smith leading that charge. Pun definitely intended. They are going to give Washington a run for its money. However, that Cardinal secondary looked awful 2 weeks ago against the Trojans, and UW quarterback Michael Penix Jr. just lit up Michigan State for nearly 400 passing yards and 4 touchdowns. The lefty does his thing again, and the Huskies win a relatively high-scoring affair. Washington outlasts Stanford 38-27. MF, take it home.
Yeah, no, I kind of feel like this is Stanford's to win. I just feel like with everything that's been going on lately, I
Against
just feel,
Washington, really?
huh?
You got Stanford winning this game against Washington?
You kind of have to keep a close eye on an upset. I know
Okay.
you're like, oh well, what about for this thing? And look, I get it. They got blown out by USC, but it wasn't really a most convincing. And the thing is that whenever you're playing a Pac-12 team, you never know. And yeah, they did beat Michigan State. It wasn't really the most convincing victory, but you never know. And the thing is, Stanford's got to play UCLA coming up. So are they looking past? Are they looking past Stanford and thinking, oh, we got a big one with UCLA? This could be upset because of the fact that everybody's like, oh, they're gonna roll Stanford. Yeah, watch it. Be careful. Don't do that because don't look past your opponent and look down at a team like Stanford. This could be an upset. Even though I think Washington's going to win, but I'm calling it right now, Anthony. I'm putting Washington on upset alert because of this.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Um, Very good. All right. All right. So with that, that will put the bow on this Week 4 edition of TXN Sports World College Football Thursday. I want to thank you all so very much for tuning in as always. No show tomorrow night, and there is a reason for that. Of course, if you haven't been with us this week, tomorrow night there's going to be a special 2-hour edition of AEW Rampage Grand Slam, and it will end at midnight, and it'll be too late for us to even bother doing a show. So we're going to be taking tomorrow night off. We're not going to be doing a show tomorrow night, but we will be back. We will be back with you Saturday night, 10:30, right back here on the Tone 25 for the Week 3 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Saturday, as we will recap the Steelers-Browns Thursday night game and preview the remaining games of week number 3, headlined by maybe the biggest Buffalo Bills-Miami Dolphins game in how long? I can't remember the last time a Bills-Dolphins game had this much hype around it. But boy, howdy. Spoiler alert, that's the Tony and Mikey game of the week right there. So, not just because it's our teams, but also because of the records and all that. There's some other good games in there as well, but that's the one, that's the headliner right there. So we'll get into that on Saturday. Sunday night, I believe, MF, you said 10 p.m. for Sunday night for the special Sunday night edition of the Cerebral Smack Talk, as we will be reviewing Friday Night SmackDown and the AEW Rampage Grand Slam. MF will have that for Ace Fair 95, 10 p.m. Sunday night. And then Monday night, we do it all over again. We got Ridiculously Raw. Our review of Monday Night Raw. And in a special Tony's Take, I'm going to have the results of the Impact Plus special Victory Road. That goes down tomorrow night. And I will have the results of that on Monday night in a special Tony's Take. And I'm only going to be doing that. And then Wednesday, we got Wednesday Night Madness. We got NXT. We got AEW Dynamite. And we will be previewing next Thursday night football's matchup with MF's Miami Dolphins squaring off against the AFC champion Cincinnati Bengals in Cincinnati. So see how that turns out. And then next week, Week 5 edition of TXN Sports World College Football Thursday. The game of the week, there is no doubt about it. North Carolina State and Clemson. But we got some other good ones. Listen to this lineup for next week, MF. Not just NC State and Clemson, but you talked about Washington against UCLA. You've got Michigan against Iowa, Wake Forest against Florida State, Kentucky against Ole Miss, Oklahoma State against Baylor, Bama and Arkansas. Whoa. Oh my. We got some good ones next week. Just wait till next week. We got some damn good ones next week. So we'll get into all that next week here on College Football Thursday, and then back to normal for the Cerebral Smack Talk, and we'll be back on our normal broadcast schedule. So with that, so until Saturday night for the Week 3 edition of TXN Sports World NFL Saturday, Anthony Florio here for good old MF Michael Fletcher, and in spirit, Michael Bullock, and of course the First Lady Dee Dee Woodson. You know the routine, everybody. Thumbs up. Talk to you later. Yeah. Throw it up Fortune Force style. Bye for now, my friends. God bless. Be good to each other. Have a blessed couple of days. And until Saturday night for NFL Saturday, you've been watching the Week 4 edition of TXN Sports World College Football Thursday right here on the Tone 25 on YouTube and StreamYard.com. For everybody who's been a part of this one, for now, Anthony Florio, so long. Bye, everybody. Bye.